quickly they can say, well, I paid this, and so lots of problems occur.
Okay, but I'm just trying to connect the dots here to Bitcoin. Like at what point? I mean, so that sounds like essentially like
so. As an example, everyone sits there going, it's my Bitcoin, it's immutable. That means you can't take my money. I can commit crimes. And for instance, if a proceeds of crime order comes through, people have, it's my keys, you can't take anything.
Okay,
So debit, drug dealer, X. Credit, X.
okay, so a correcting entry can be made, but this is where I'm trying to understand exactly, like, mechanically what you're talking about here, because I get that idea. So let's consider a Bitcoin example then, for example. Suppose I have my keys. Someone steals money from me because they steal my keys. Somehow they actually get my keys and they send money to themselves. But also perhaps I can actually demonstrate that those are really my Bitcoin. So somehow they have a UTXO that has Bitcoin in it that belongs to me, but I don't have that key now. Now they have the key. So the question then is, how do we actually add a correcting entry? Like, what process would be followed for me to get my money back in that scenario?
Okay, so the miners can do this. Now, there were lots of little ways of, I'm still doing it. All the segwit bit where people go, it's only the miners and blah, blah, blah. Well, only the miners mean they can actually do that. So too bad. The reality here is miners will follow the rules. The last sentence of the white paper states that they follow the rules, and court orders and law are rules. Sorry, they are a superset of what rules are. Rules are law and court orders and other stuff.
Yeah.
But without, I mean, the core of rules is law.
Okay, I get this, but again, I want to understand, like, literally, like, mechanically how this would work. So let me give a couple ways this could actually work in practice. So there's a thief that has my money. So one way the miners, and again, I'm able to prove this in court, and who knows, for whatever reason, I'm unable to recover the actual key, just in this example. So there is this opt-true bug in Bitcoin, or there was. One way you could do something would be you create a new input that says opt-true. And then op return or whatever it would be. The input could then return true. So then if a miner put that in, they could send the money back to me. Is that what you're talking about here? Because that would be one way I could imagine that happening. Okay.
That would actually work. Another example is segwit. Think about how segwit works. It's an anyone can spend transaction.
Oh, okay. So you're saying, okay, I get what you're saying there. So yes, so one way to do that would be consistent with the original rules of Bitcoin. The miners are now allowing these anyone can spend transactions.
Yes.
So you could actually create.
That's one of different ways, including the opt-true bug, including other things like that. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. So you're describing a different mechanical way. So then,
it does. I mean, I'm not even specifying which mechanical way, nor do I necessarily know which one would be best in the long run.
Okay. Well, let me give one. Let me give a third option then. This is just again to sketch it out. Could I put an invalid signature in there? So for instance, it's my Bitcoin. It's a thief has it. There's a UTXO. They have the private key. I don't have the private key. Would it be allowed for me to insert an invalid signature? Do you see what I'm saying? I could have a private key that I'm the owner of that key. And I put my signature in the Bitcoin transaction. This would not be allowed according to my understanding of the Bitcoin rules, because it would be invalid and the miners would ignore it. Okay. So would that be impossible?
It wouldn't propagate. No, I mean, that wouldn't work.
So it'd have to be something that they would essentially consistent with the original protocol rules. Something like, if it's a signature, it'd have to be valid according to those rules, which essentially means. Okay, so then there's at least 3 different ways one could imagine recovering.
With code separator, there would have been other ways. With opt-true at the end, there would have been other ways. I mean, there are a number of different methodologies that would all work.
Okay, so there are many different mechanical ways to do this. So with the thought experiment is so long as there's at least one.
Yeah.
So then, so you're saying this, and are you trying to essentially demonstrate that at the end of the day, we ultimately rest on law in this? Is that kind of what you're arguing?
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So This only works if miners are in consensus, but miners can be made in consensus because remember, the protocol de-anonymizes miners. So
Okay.
miners will face legal action if they don't do things.
Yeah. Okay. So I get all those parts. Now, you asked me the public key of its owner.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still on the right track here? Like, because
We
I'm still
are.
not sure what you're
So
referring.
you made a comment
Yes.
about what if someone steals my coins or steals my address?
Yes.
Do they become the owner? How does
Not if it's
property
stolen.
work?
How does what work?
Exactly. I mean, property. If someone steals your goods, it doesn't ownership doesn't transfer.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would still be the owner.
It's possession, but ownership's not changed at all.
Okay, so can we dive into this mechanically then? So
Mm.
let's suppose we try to recover it something like
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the thief's private key, so I can't just
Mm.
spend that. But perhaps I can get a court order issued or something like this, one way or
Mm.
another, that I'm going to recover my money.
Yep.
And at what point does the public key of the owner get inserted? When we create the recovering transaction, it goes to my public key. I mean, what is the relevance of the public key?
It would be moved to a new key. I mean, the whole address thing and vanity addresses that people use is just stupid. So the
We would just enter.
methodology is everything should be a separate key. It's a separate serial number and a separate note. UTXOs are all separate. You just move it to a new UTXO.
Okay.
And all this, you can't make us do that, whatever else, of course you can.
Okay. Can I ask you questions about the ongoing issue then? Because I'm sort of trying to figure out what you're actually going to be doing next. Can I ask you some strategic questions? Because I'm worried I'm going to ask questions that you don't want to talk about.
I'll tell you where we won't go into it, but I mean, for the moment, we'll just go into hypotheticals and whatever else. As if, for instance, a proceeds of crime order was issued, in which case the government now owns that, not you.
Okay, so if somebody, okay, I see what you're saying there. So suppose I'm a criminal or something. I steal it. I'm the criminal in this
Yeah.
scenario. They could issue, it's proceeds of crime. So perhaps they don't know who the original owner is, but the government can just confiscate it because
Correct.
proceeds of crime.
Mm-hmm.
And so they could do something like this. So the FBI or something like Silk Road would be an example of, I think they just did that actually. They recovered like $1 billion in Bitcoin or something like this.
Yeah, by breaking keys and things like this, but
okay,
there are better ways of doing it.
Okay, so yeah, okay,
and you've got large addresses that people track that are known to be associated with certain drug dealers and people smugglers and things like this. So if I was those guys, I wouldn't want my money in BTC long term.
Okay, because what are you saying there? Are you saying like BTC is so filled of essentially proceeds of crime that perhaps a large fraction of it is that way, or what do you mean by that?
There's a significant chunk. I mean, there are $3 billion before the pump earlier this year with Chinese drug dealers that are known. At least another billion to do with people smugglers that are known.
Okay. Okay. And so what is it then? So what is it that people don't understand? That the law can still come in here and
yeah, they've got this false narrative that my keys, my Bitcoin, you can't do anything.
Okay.
But remember, we covered off what nodes are, and that was the real lie. The thing is, there are 10,000 nodes. No, there's not. If you run 100 exit points, but you're all one company, you're one company, one node. So this is why I say there's only 32 nodes. All of this, we're all different things. No, you're not. And pools want to get paid as well. The members want to get paid. And the exchanges want to get paid. And do you know what happens if an exchange intentionally decides to bypass law and court orders?
Well, that sounds like that would be illegal, and so they would be subject to having all their funds confiscated. Is what I would imagine in a scenario like that. Not to mention
exactly. So I mean, all this, we can fork away and be a different coin if the miners. No, you actually can't. You won't have exchanges to sell your money on. you won't have any ability to transfer into US dollars. And people aren't interested in only having BTC.
Yeah.
People want to have BTC to exchange for other things.
Yeah.
So, or there's BTC that has no tax paid. It's actually very visible. An example of that is I've had a few friendly individuals out there have done a little bit of free work for me, which is allowable. I asked sort of people on Slack to see if you can dig up some addresses, and a few people have done that, and it's interesting to see. So, I mean, I haven't analyzed all of it yet, but just a quick view shows that Mr. Cobra there has received over 400,000 US dollars, none of which seems to go to the legitimate exchanges that would actually mean that he's putting his real identity and paying tax.
Okay, so you're narrowing in, and that Cobra is possibly not reported all of his taxes. And
I mean, it sort of becomes impossible to be anonymous like that. Mr. Cobra can't do both. Think about it for a minute. If he's going to a legal exchange and transferring the money out legally, then he's going to have identity for that amount of money. I mean, identity, who cares in $200?
Yeah.
But when you're talking $400,000, identity matters.
Okay, so then another thing would be, if you don't know who the identity of Cobra is, one could figure this out if he's withdrawing this money somehow. Is that kind of what you're hinting at there?
Oh, you probably could, but I'm thinking